Good morning and welcome to the April 4th, 2022 edition of the MSP Dispatch, your source for news, community events, and commentary in the MSP channel. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Tony Francisco. How you doing, Tony?
Excellent, Ray. How are you doing?
Another beautiful day. I can't complain. It's had a nice, relaxing weekend. Actually, wasn't too crazy news-wise, so that's always
Very
nice.
slow
I'll
news
take it, right?
weekend. Yes, it's exciting at the same time terrifying because I'm wondering what's around the corner. So let's get into the news. Monday, as issued on CNN Business, Elon Musk purchased 9.2% of Twitter stock, according to a filing this morning. Traditionally, anytime an investor buys 5 or more% of a share, they must disclose this purchase on the Security and Exchange Commission. Although a stake of less than 10% of the company is considered a more passive purchase in the eyes of Wall Street. This is influential. Let's talk about this. Ray, what are your thoughts on this and how it could impact the industry as a whole?
So this strikes me as Elon trying to, and again, this is prognostication. This is, me kind of reading the tea leaves a little bit. But I look at this very similar to Starlink. I look at this very similar to Zuckerberg before with, funding internet in Africa or Starlink, Elon putting internet out in the Ukraine. It strikes me that there's a fine line between providing content and controlling the messaging. And when you have the people that are so deeply ingrained in putting out, you know, Elon tweets and millions of people follow, it can move markets. It's happened before. And now he's has a potential to control the platform where the tweeting is happening. While Elon has not been a malicious character in the past, I do question motives behind this because he's too smart to not question what he's doing.
So that's an interesting perspective. And what about controlling not just the platform for the messaging itself, Twitter, but also the piping to get the message to the platform, which could be indicative of other platforms being manipulated for other reasons. So that's almost an A to Z food chain in the communication process control that could be equivalent to a state-run TV. What are your thoughts on that?
And that's exactly what, the concern was with Amazon, right? Amazon, first they had the storefront, then they started creating the products, then they had the logistics. At what point are they, and there's always a concern, they see something being sold and they see a high demand in the market, and then they start creating those products on their own, which are often just rebrands. It's not like they're coming out with a net new product on their own. They're seeing what's being purchased and they're creating their own. They're finding somebody to do it cost effectively and rebranding and selling it, and then taking that market share. Well, when you own that whole ecosystem, that's a danger to capitalism, right? That is the definition of monopoly. We saw with AT&T decades past. What is to prevent now? Like you said, he's controlling the internet, and he's going to have a major stake in a platform that has the messaging. At what point does this become a monopoly, or does it qualify as a monopoly?
What are the possible benefits out of this? Are we talking about a larger expansion of Twitter in ways that we didn't expect when they went from a smaller text size to a larger text size that seemed to expand the audience? Are we talking about deeper integrations into other applications that we are not aware of for simple messaging, not just for public news events, but more privatized alerts, an entirely packaged alerting system that is ready for you starting today with a deep connection using a Starlink connection. What are the possible benefits that could come out of this?
So I don't see it yet. I know Elon is smart enough to do it, right? If you look at the connection between Tesla with the lithium batteries, and then you have the solar panels, you have the battery packs, you have the data. I mean, Elon has called Tesla in the past a data company, not a car company. And he has those vehicles mapping the roads and feeding data back in real time back to Tesla. So it has this whole ecosystem play that goes into it. Now, I don't see it yet with Twitter. Now, I think that's my own shortcoming. I think Elon is very, very smart, and I think you're exactly right. There is some kind of ecosystem play coming or some kind of integration play. I just don't see it yet. Do you have any idea what that could be?
Well, I think you hit it on the head, and I was alluding from the fact that Tesla is an information um, repository, both on the receiving side as well as the transmission side, and the combination of the solar panel industry that he has deep influence of. I think that could be the alerting process, and both of those consuming Twitter as the platform for that alerting. That alert to come to you at any way, shape, or form in a private fashion almost implies that there's a singular communication system that's being put into place, or at least the potential for that. So I'm interested to see where it goes. So let's talk about other things, because I'm certain there's going to be a lot of feedback on this over the next coming days.
Absolutely. So our next story is there was a Chrome RCE 0 day, means active exploit in the wild, that was released last week. It's CVE 2022-1096. Um, it is I believe, the 11th Chrome 0 day in 2022, which is absolutely astounding considering we're 4 days into the month of April. This was actually released last week, but we didn't have time to get proper coverage, so we didn't want to put out the news. There's already a Chrome update to address this. If you go to the three little dots on the top right, you'll be able to see it, and you'll see right away if there's an update. But basically, this one's kind of neat. This one allows Chrome to show a browser, effectively create a browser within the browser, which allows for remote code execution. Um, there's more deep dive on this done by Matt Lee last week of PAX 8. We'll try to get that video he did and link it in the show notes. But these are coming fast and furious. We'll link the CVE as well, the MITRE CVE, and they have rated a something. I can't find the rating, but they have rated as something. Regardless, to say this is a 0 day, and this does deserve to be, does deserve attention, and update your Chrome browser right away. No real reason not to. The last Chrome update done by Chrome, this is the only actual update that was in that Chrome update. It was specifically for this RCE. Tony, these 0 days are coming fast and furious. Even Chrome, that has better than average release schedules and updates and addresses to security concerns, even they're getting hit. You even mentioned using a different browser recently, right?
I am a fan of the Brave browser, and I have been for quite a while. So the amount of security risks that people are undertaking are directly related to the popularity of the X, whatever X is. And if X is very popular, there's probably going to be quite a bit of interest into attacking that, exploiting it, and most importantly, exploiting the audience that's consuming it. So finding something that's a little bit less popular is going to shift the odds in your favor. That being said, Brave has been a great browser. DuckDuckGo. Is that right? DuckDuckGo is what I use for the
Yeah,
search
the
engine.
search platform. Yep.
Yeah, for the search platform. So the combination of that seems to put me in a nice, comfortable spot. But by advertising this, I'm now going to have to change browsers and search engines because it's become more popular. I strongly recommend it, and I have for years. So
That one hacker that's looking out for Tony Francisco. You don't want to give him any leverage, right?
you're gonna be bored.
No, but like,
All he does
you
is look
know,
for news stories. That's all he does. I wish there was something more entertaining of this guy. Yeah.
I'm just saying Simon's not here today, and he could be working with I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, you know, and I think, it's hard as a technologist when we have family, friends. As an MSP, you have your clients and you're trying to give them recommendations. And Chrome is, you have all these integrations, and the integrations is where the problem happens, right? Like, they're trying to do backwards compatibility. They're trying to do, make sure you have new technology availability. But this is very similar to what happens with WordPress. WordPress has a million plugins, a million different, and it's anybody of any skill set whatsoever can make a plugin, and they're just trying to get functionality, not security. Um, and so it becomes less secure. Well, a lot of these security issues come where they're trying to enable this resource, they're trying to enable this capability. Heartbleed was like that, right? Where they're trying to give extra speed to your system or take advantage of extra resources, and then suddenly it becomes a vulnerability. Um, a lot of times you see these software packages, the clients say, stop giving me new features, focus on security first. And that seems exactly where Brave is coming into place, right? We're not advocating change your browser just because of this vulnerability, right, Tony? We're not like sky is falling here.
The sky is not falling, but just like anything in security, it's not an event; it's a process, and maybe part of that process is as an evolution. It may seem like a forklift, a change from the MSP perspective, but at the very least, the recommendation from the MSP, the advisor to the clients, could have a double-digit impact in a positive direction. So it's something to keep aware of.
That absolutely, and we'll keep these show notes, pulled all the links down below so you can get better educated on it. Like I said, Matt Lee of Pax8 did a full video on this last Friday, so we'll try to link that in so you can see that as well. What do we got up next, Tony?
As listed in channel futures, it looks like the FBI is severely warning that local government hacks are on the rise and ransomware is an enormous issue. They discourage strongly paying this ransomware. The amount of attacks that have occurred in the last year has been staggering. Looking at the statistics, the by March of 2020, there was a surge in ransomware of 148%. We have from 2021, we have a surge in over 140% from Q3 alone in 2021. The statistics for 2022 have yet to be released, but it is clear that the FBI is treating this as a priority, and ransomware to local governments specifically are on the rise with dramatic repercussions. Ray, how do you feel about this? Is it important to you as it is to me?
So there's this dichotomy, right? It's the concern. It's the do we or don't we? Do we pay the ransom? Don't we pay the ransom? Right? I, I agree with you. You pay the ransom. You're supporting bad actors. You're supporting this economy of malicious intent. I absolutely see the point behind it. On the flip side, when your data is compromised, when you have your business completely shut down, because the people considering paying these ransoms are not the ones that had offsite, and air gapped backups. These are not the ones that have tested their backup and restore procedures. These are not the ones that can, and even in those cases, it's insanely complicated to get back up and running. But the ones considering paying the ransoms are the ones that are in even worse spot. It's hard to tell that person, pay this money and you can be back up in a day, or don't pay the money and be weeks or even risk your business shutting down. How do you weigh that, Tony? How do you justify going one way or another?
It is much easier to say to pay or not to pay when you're not in a situation of possibly your entire company is brought to its knees, to a screeching halt, where it could, if not should, jeopardize the well-being or the livelihood of the organization if it's done correctly. Saying not to pay that for um, the well-being of the rest of the community, to not subsidize or fund these ransomware hackers to attack others, that's such an idealistic perspective, because you would be the sacrificial lamb in that process and maybe or maybe not helping the process. um, I have a lot of mixed emotions on this, but the focus is always going to be on backing up your data. I really have nothing else to say. Every opinion that I come up with, although valid for the moment, could be addressed with back up your data, back up your data, back up your customers' data, back it up, back it up, back it up. And one hack would justify, years of backing something up. And that's just covering the ransomware hack scenario. What about just a general outage? That's what that backed up data will also cover as well.
Yeah, and then you have the other, besides the ethical quandaries, right? If you don't pay, do you risk losing your business? And how many? We're both business owners, right? We have our staffs that we they could be without a job if we're unable to recover. But then you have the legal implications. Well, if you have your insurance that may be willing to pay, which happens, from what I understand, more often than not. Maybe we'll get Dustin Bolander and Fifth Wall over to give us some insight on that. But also, you may be paying a country that has been sanctioned by the US. You may be violating US law. So, these are a lot of things to consider. We definitely want to hear what your thoughts are. If you guys have thoughts, hit us up at news@mspmedia.tv. We definitely want to know these things, or hit us up on any of the socials, and we'll definitely discuss it in a follow up. Um, but going into our community corner, one of my favorite one of my favorite arenas, we have a question here from. Let's see. We have a question here from username the Quincy 91, and I'll zoom that in a little bit. Says, what would make an MSP stand out for you? My friend has a niche analytics startup and grew rapidly over the last 10 to 12 months, so much so that she no longer has the time to manage IT herself and wants the responsibility outsourced so she can focus time on developing the business. She asked me to help find a Microsoft 365 and endpoint management MSP. My question is, what would make an MSP stand out for you other than the price? Struggling to see the wood from the trees. Um, and that's one of those things. I've often talked about if I started an MSP today. Those that don't know, I ran a very successful MSP for several years before moving into voice. But if I were to run an MSP today, there's a lot of things I would do different, despite having run a successful MSP. Um, One of the things, while there's certain core tenets of MSP that are going to be ubiquitous across any MSP you talk to, right? Endpoint management, security layers, user training, VCIO, TBR, QBR, whatever you're doing. That's going to be core to any MSP. I think it should be. The recurring maintenance management stuff, hopefully the planning stuff going forward. Um, but then you have what makes you stand out, right? What gives you the Apple iPhone thinner, lighter, faster? What's your differentiator? And I often say if I started an MSP today, I would hyper focus on some kind of niche. Dave Sobel talk and Jay McBain had a great interview a couple weeks ago talking about, the best in class MSPs now are looking at how to squeeze out those consulting dollars, right? For every dollar sold of a product, you want another $6 or $7 out of some kind of consultative piece or some kind of add-on piece of your own, something that can't be sold by somebody else. Well, if I'm an MSP and I'm looking at a niche analytics startup, I'm going to hyper focus on that. What software is important to them? What features are important to them? What kind of reliability? What kind of future thinking stuff? Look at their market, learn about their market, and see what they can do. What's important to them, and how I can learn about that, so I can provide value to them. That I will tell you, I don't know a single other MSP that is focusing on analytics, much less focusing on analytic startups. So, there's a niche there. You have it, but learn about their business. And that is the differentiator to me. What about you, Tony? I know you haven't done the MSP route, so you've been saved from it. But this is a business question at its core, right? This is if I started a business, how would I attack it? How would I be different?
I think analytics is an entirely undervalued portion of the customer experience from the MSP perspective. At the end of the day, the technology that's being used by the MSP to manage or monitor the customer is simply a tool. And the processes that are involved in that are very MSP centric from the perspective of the MSP. The end goal is to create a frictionless work environment for the customer to do whatever the customer is going to do. And they don't really care about those tools, nor the processes for using those tools, as long as they make the end goal more achievable and frictionless for whatever the customer's core competency is. Consequently, if you can pull data out of their processes for them to view by using the same mechanisms that you as an MSP are using to manage and monitor them, that is an entirely new peripheral value that they will pay for. This is something that could be very specific to them, but to you, it's ancillary. And understanding their business model will help you say, here are the resources that we have available to you. What value is this to you? And you can actually start to farm that a little bit further. You can evolve it a little bit further, provide more standardized reports for the customer, giving them a strength that not only was never seen before, but it could actually evolve into an entirely new practice for your customer base as an MSP, using the same tools you've always used with just data that was almost considered metadata peripheral. And those analytic tools are readily available, and they're already embedded in all the tools that you're using to manage your customers today. So I think it's a very undervalued portion of the audience from the customer perspective, and the MSPs have it right in front of them.
I couldn't agree more. And, as with always, we want to hear from you guys. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, hit us up, news@mspmedia.tv. And with that, I think we've wrapped up another quality episode of MSP Dispatch for this April 4th, 2022. Tony, thank you so much for your insight and wisdom. It's appreciated.
Thank you so much, Ray. This is always a blast talking to our community and providing the best news available.
Absolutely. So this is MSP Dispatch, your source for news, community events, and commentary in the MSP channel. Until next time, take care of yourself, family. This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.